I used to believe that trust was like a foundation you build together, brick by brick, until one day someone hands you a sledgehammer and shows you exactly how fragile it really was. My name is Daisy. I am 28 and I work in marketing here in Denver. 3 weeks before my wedding, my fiancée Madison told me she was going to a girls only bachelorette party in Los Angeles. I trusted her completely until her friend's Snapchat showed me something that changed everything. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and please hit that like button if you believe trust is the foundation of love. You will not believe how this story unfolds. Madison and I met 3 years ago through a dating app, one of those success stories people love to hear about. She was an architect with this infectious laugh that could light up an entire room, and I fell for her the moment she showed me her sketches of sustainable housing projects over our first coffee date. We had been living together in our Denver apartment for 2 years, and our life felt like something straight out of a romance movie. Sunday mornings meant pancakes and hiking in the Colorado mountains. Weeknight dinners involved us cooking together while she told me about her latest building designs, and I shared stories from my marketing campaigns. 6 months earlier, Madison proposed to me at Red Rocks Amphitheater during a sunset concert. She got down on one knee right as the music swelled, and I swear half the audience was crying along with me. The ring was perfect, a vintage sapphire that caught the golden light streaming across the red rocks. We immediately started planning our dream autumn wedding at a gorgeous venue overlooking the Rocky Mountains. We had already put down a $25,000 deposit, ordered invitations, and I had found the most beautiful flowing dress that made me feel like a princess. Everything in our relationship felt solid and secure. Madison was the kind of person who remembered to bring me soup when I was sick, who would stay up late helping me prepare for important presentations at work. We talked about everything from our fears about the future to our dreams of traveling the world together. I thought I knew her completely, every quirk and habit and secret thought. Looking back now, I realize how naive that sounds, but at the time, I truly believed we were one of those couples that would make it forever. 2 weeks before the wedding, Madison came home from work with news about her bachelorette party. Her best friend Brooklyn, whom she had known since their college days at USC, wanted to organize a girls-only weekend in Los Angeles. Brooklyn worked in fashion and had connections to get them into exclusive spas and rooftop restaurants that normal people could never afford. The guest list would include Harper, one of Madison's colleagues from the architecture firm, and Aubrey, Madison's younger cousin, who was just 23 and always seemed to be documenting her entire life on social media. At first, I wanted to join them. After all, we were getting married in 2 weeks, and I thought it would be fun to celebrate together with her closest friends. But Madison gently explained that she needed some quality time with her college friends before taking such a big step in her life. She said Brooklyn had specifically planned it as a throwback to their university days, complete with inside jokes and memories I would not understand. I felt a little disappointed, but I also understood the importance of those deep friendships that predate romantic relationships. I ended up giving Madison $2,000 to make sure she could enjoy herself without worrying about money. She promised to send me photos throughout the weekend, describing it as nothing more than spa treatments, shopping on Rodeo Drive, and fancy cocktails by the pool. The plan sounded innocent enough, and Madison had never given me any reason to doubt her loyalty or honesty. She was scheduled to fly back Sunday evening, just 5 days before our wedding, and we would spend that final week together, making last-minute preparations and enjoying our last few days as an engaged couple. The first day Madison was gone, I spent mostly by myself in our apartment, feeling a strange mixture of loneliness and happiness. I was lonely because I had grown so accustomed to her presence, but I was also happy that she was getting to spend quality time with her closest friends before we officially became a family. I received several sweet text messages throughout the day, along with photos of her getting a facial at some incredibly expensive spa and beautifully plated food at restaurants I could never afford on my marketing salary. I decided to use the time productively by working on a surprise I had been planning for weeks. I wanted to redecorate our bedroom as a welcome home gift with new bedding in her favorite shade of blue and framed photos from our relationship displayed on the walls. I also called my mother to finalize some last-minute details about the wedding flowers and discuss the seating arrangements for our families. Everything felt perfect and exciting, like we were on the verge of starting the most beautiful chapter of our lives together. That evening, I ordered takeout from our favorite Thai restaurant and settled in to watch Netflix alone. I kept finding myself reaching for my phone to share funny moments with Madison, only to remember that she was probably out having dinner with her friends. I missed her terribly, but I also felt proud of myself for giving her the space she needed. I fell asleep on the couch around 11 p.m., completely content and trusting that everything was exactly as it should be. The second day started normally enough, but I noticed that Madison was texting me less frequently than usual. When I asked about it, she explained that they had a packed schedule of activities, and she was simply too busy to check her phone constantly. This seemed reasonable, especially knowing how organized Brooklyn could be when she set her mind to planning something special. I trusted Madison completely, so I pushed away the tiny flutter of anxiety that tried to settle in my stomach. However, that afternoon, while I was scrolling through Instagram during my lunch break, I accidentally came across a story posted by Brooklyn. It showed the group of girls by a pool, but in the background I could clearly see several men lounging on chairs and swimming. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized what looked like Madison's silhouette in the corner of the frame, though the image was too blurry and far away for me to be completely certain. I stared at that story for probably 10 minutes trying to convince myself that there was a perfectly innocent explanation. Maybe they were staying at a hotel with a shared pool area where other guests happened to be spending time. Maybe Brooklyn had male friends who lived in Los Angeles and had stopped by briefly to say hello. I created dozens of scenarios in my mind that would explain what I was seeing without Madison having lied to me about the nature of their trip. When I tried calling Madison that evening, my call went straight to voicemail. About an hour later, she sent me a text saying she was busy with the girls, but loved me and would talk to me tomorrow. The message felt shorter and more distant than her usual warm, detailed updates about her day. I spent most of that night lying awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, and trying to quiet the growing unease that was building in my chest, like a storm cloud gathering strength. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted and on edge. I kept telling myself that I was being paranoid and that long-distance relationships, even temporary ones, naturally involve some communication challenges. Madison had never given me any reason to doubt her loyalty, and I felt guilty for letting my imagination run wild based on one unclear Instagram story that probably meant nothing at all. But then I opened Snapchat and saw something that made my blood run cold. Aubrey Madison's 23-year-old cousin, who documented everything, had posted a video story from what appeared to be a private party at an expensive villa. In the clip, which lasted maybe 8 seconds, I could clearly see Madison sitting on the lap of a tall blonde man who had his arms wrapped around her waist. She was laughing and appeared completely comfortable with the intimate positioning, making no effort to move away or create distance between them. I watched that video probably 20 times, screenshotting every frame to make sure I was not misinterpreting what I was seeing. There was no way to mistake the scene for anything innocent. This was clearly not a girls-only bachelorette party, and Madison was obviously enjoying the company of men in a way that went far beyond casual friendship. The villa looked expensive and private, the kind of place you rent specifically for intimate gatherings rather than innocent spa weekends. My hands were shaking as I immediately tried calling Madison, but once again, my call went directly to voicemail. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath my feet, like everything I thought I knew about my relationship was suddenly questionable. I sent her a text message that tried to sound casual while still addressing what I had seen. "Hey babe, I saw Aubrey's video, and there seem to be guys at your girls' trip, just wondering what is going on." 3 hours passed before Madison responded, and when she finally did, her message felt defensive and dismissive. "Oh, that just some friends of Brooklyn from college. No big deal at all. Do not read into it, sweetie. Love you." The tone was completely different from her usual warm, detailed explanations about her day, and she had never called me sweetie in a context that felt so patronizing and distant. I knew in that moment that Madison was lying to me, but I was not ready to fully confront what that meant for our relationship and our upcoming wedding. Instead, I spent the rest of the day in a strange state of denial, alternating between convincing myself that I was overreacting and feeling completely sick to my stomach about what I had witnessed. The foundation of trust that I thought was unshakable was starting to develop cracks that I could not ignore. That evening, everything changed when Brooklyn posted an Instagram live stream without realizing that I was one of the viewers watching. In the video, which she was broadcasting from what looked like the same expensive villa, I could see Madison clearly in the background, kissing the same blonde man from Aubrey's Snapchat story. But what made it infinitely worse was hearing the man who someone called Tyler introduce Madison to other people at the party as his girlfriend. Madison was laughing and playing along with the charade, acting like a single woman who was completely available and unattached. She made no mention of being engaged or getting married in less than 2 weeks. Instead, she was flirting openly and seemed to be thoroughly enjoying herself in a way that made my stomach turn inside out. I quickly started screen recording everything, knowing that I would need proof of what I was witnessing. The betrayal cut deeper than I had ever imagined possible. This was not just a momentary lapse in judgment or a mistake made under the influence of too much alcohol. This was calculated deception, planned lies, and a complete disregard for our relationship and everything we had built together over the past 3 years. Madison was not just cheating on me. She was actively pretending that I did not exist while she explored a relationship with someone else. Instead of falling apart and crying, I felt something cold and determined settle into my chest. I realized that I was not going to beg Madison for explanations or give her opportunities to create more elaborate lies. Instead, I was going to take action to protect myself and ensure that she faced real consequences for her choices. I spent the next hour researching exactly what I could and could not do legally to separate our intertwined lives. I discovered that since the apartment lease was in my name and I had been paying the majority of our shared expenses, I had the legal right to change the locks and remove her belongings. Our joint credit card account could be closed immediately since both of our names were on it, and I could transfer our shared savings account back into my individual name since I had been the primary contributor. The airline tickets for her return flight had been purchased with my credit card, which meant I could cancel them without her consent. Working methodically through the night, I began dismantling the life we had built together. I called a locksmith who agreed to come out first thing in the morning to change all the locks on our apartment. I gathered all of Madison's belongings, from her clothes and books to her expensive art supplies and architectural drawings, and packed everything neatly into cardboard boxes that I arranged by our front door. I wanted to be completely fair and respectful, even though she had shown me no such consideration. Next, I contacted our wedding venue and explained that I needed to cancel our reception due to unforeseen circumstances. Fortunately, their contract included a clause that allowed for full refunds if cancellations occurred more than 2 weeks in advance, which meant I would get back the majority of our $25,000 deposit. I also called the florist, the photographer, and the caterer to cancel all of our arrangements and minimize any financial losses. The hardest part was writing a detailed email to both of our families, explaining that the wedding was off due to Madison's infidelity. I included screenshots of what I had witnessed, not because I wanted to humiliate her, but because I knew that people would have questions, and I wanted to be completely honest about what had happened. I sent a separate, longer email to Madison's mother, who had always treated me like a daughter and deserved to hear the truth directly from me. By sunrise, I had effectively erased Madison from my life in Denver. I canceled her return flight, transferred all of our shared money into my individual account, and left a simple note on top of her packed belongings. Tyler seems nice. Your things are outside. Do not contact me. I felt remarkably calm and clear-headed, like I had finally stopped carrying a weight I did not even realize had been crushing me. As the day progressed, my phone started ringing constantly, with calls from numbers I did not recognize. Madison had apparently realized that she was stranded in Los Angeles without access to money or a way to get home, and she was desperately trying to reach me from borrowed phones and probably Brooklyn's devices. I let every single call go to voicemail, and when I finally listened to the messages hours later, I could hear the progression from confusion to panic to rage to pleading desperation. In the first few messages, Madison sounded genuinely confused about why her credit card was not working and why she could not access our joint account. She asked me to call her back to help figure out what was going wrong with our banking. But as the day continued and she presumably tried to book a new flight home, her tone shifted to panic as she realized that I had discovered her deception and was taking action in response. Tyler, the man she had been cheating with, apparently had no interest in supporting her once he understood that she had a fiancé back home and had been lying to him as well. According to one of her later voicemails, he told her that he thought she was single and was not interested in getting involved in relationship drama. Brooklyn and her other friends also seemed to distance themselves from the situation, probably not wanting to get caught up in the consequences of Madison's choices. By the fourth day, Madison's messages had become completely desperate. She was begging me to send her money for a flight home and promising that she could explain everything if I would just give her a chance to talk. She claimed that nothing serious had happened with Tyler and that she had just gotten caught up in the party atmosphere without thinking about the consequences. But I had seen the evidence with my own eyes, and her explanations sounded hollow and manipulative. Eventually, Madison had to call her own family to ask for money to get home, which meant that her parents learned about her infidelity and our canceled wedding at the same time. Her mother called me crying, apologizing for her daughter's behavior and begging me to reconsider ending the relationship. But I explained calmly that trust once broken so completely could not be easily repaired, especially not when the betrayal had been so calculated and deliberate. When Madison finally made it back to Denver 3 days later, she found her belongings waiting outside our apartment building and no way to get inside. She spent several hours sitting on the front steps, hoping I would eventually come outside and give her a chance to explain herself face to face. But I had already made peace with my decision and felt no need to rehash the details or listen to more lies and excuses. The legal separation of our shared life turned out to be relatively straightforward since we had not yet officially married. I kept the apartment, the wedding deposits that could be refunded, and the majority of our shared savings since I had contributed more financially to our relationship. Madison found a temporary place to stay with Harper, her colleague, while she figured out her next steps and tried to rebuild her life in Denver. Over the following weeks, I focused on taking care of myself and processing what had happened without letting anger or resentment consume me. I started attending yoga classes at a studio near my apartment where the meditation and mindfulness practices helped me work through my emotions in a healthy way. My best friend Emma, who was also my colleague at the marketing firm, provided incredible support during this difficult transition period. After about a month, I made the decision to move into a smaller studio apartment across town. I wanted a completely fresh start in a space that had no memories of Madison or our failed relationship. I decorated the new place entirely according to my own taste, with bright colors and plants and artwork that made me feel happy and peaceful. For the first time in years, I was making decisions based solely on what I wanted, rather than what would work for both of us. I also threw myself into my career with renewed energy and focus. Without the distraction of wedding planning and relationship drama, I was able to concentrate fully on a major campaign I had been developing for months. My increased dedication and creativity paid off when I was promoted to senior marketing manager just 3 months after Madison and I broke up. The promotion came with a significant salary increase and much more interesting responsibilities. Around that same time, I joined a hiking group that met every weekend to explore different trails in the Colorado mountains. I had always loved hiking, but Madison preferred shorter, easier walks, so I had never pushed myself to try more challenging terrain. With the group, I discovered a passion for rock climbing and backcountry camping that opened up an entirely new social circle of adventurous, positive people. 6 months after the breakup, I started dating again, but with a completely different approach than I had used in my 20s. I was much more selective about who I spent time with, and I paid closer attention to how people's actions aligned with their words. I had learned the hard way that trust must be earned gradually through consistent behavior rather than given freely based on promises and good intentions. It was through the hiking group that I met Jake, an environmental scientist who worked for the National Park Service. What attracted me to him was not just his kindness and intelligence, but the way his actions consistently matched his words. When he said he would call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. When he told me about his day, I could see the truth reflected in his eyes. He proved his trustworthiness through small, consistent actions over many months rather than grand gestures or flowery declarations. Madison attempted to contact me several times during that first year, especially around what would have been our wedding date. She sent letters, emails, and even showed up at my workplace once to try to convince me that she had learned from her mistakes and wanted to try again. But I had moved forward completely and felt no desire to revisit a relationship that had caused me so much pain and taught me so much about my own worth. Looking back now, I can honestly say that discovering Madison's betrayal before our wedding was the best thing that could have happened to me. Living with someone who was capable of such elaborate deception would have slowly eroded my sense of reality and self-worth over many years. Instead, I learned to trust my instincts, value my own judgment, and never settle for someone who treats love like it is disposable. The experience taught me that self-respect is more valuable than maintaining any relationship, no matter how much time and energy you have invested in it. I learned that actions always reveal true character more clearly than words or promises ever could. Most importantly, I discovered that being alone and authentic is infinitely better than being with someone and feeling like you have to ignore red flags or make excuses for their behavior. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to you is discovering who someone really is before you legally bind your life to theirs. Trust your instincts, value yourself, and never settle for someone who treats your love like it is disposable. What would you have done in my situation? Would you have confronted Madison directly or taken the same silent action that I did? Let me know in the comments below, and do not forget to hit that like button if this story resonated with you. Please subscribe for more real-life stories about relationships, betrayal, and finding the strength to choose yourself. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that they deserve better than someone who lies to their face. Thank you for watching, and remember that sometimes the most painful experiences lead us exactly where we need to be.